Doing great. Thanks so much for taking some time out of your busy day, I'm sure, to have a chat on the podcast. It's much appreciated, and it's an honor, to be honest.
Yeah, thank you.
James, the fact that you're doing this live on the road, where are you at right now on your journey?
We're just outside of Moncton. We just passed Moncton. We're on our way to Salisbury, New Brunswick.
Right on. So, James, you've literally walked across the country. Why are you undertaking such a massive endeavor?
Well, it started back in November of last year. For a variety of reasons, I decided that I wasn't happy with being mandated into participating in the rollout of an experimental product. But it had more to do with as what I saw as a government overreach. So in two different departments, I'm a federal government employee, in the public service and with the Department of National Defense. I had transferred to the reserves back in 2019 after 28 years in the Reg Force. And as you know, in 2021, it was announced by the federal government that you were going to require a vaccination to travel, and then that transitioned over to the federal government workforce as a whole requiring a vaccination. It wasn't, like I said, the vaccination to me was secondary. It was the imposition of this policy that I had an issue with, and the way it was a blanket policy, I didn't feel that was right in any way, shape, or form. And just because, I had reservations, I had questions. I wanted to see what the safety and the efficacy and how long it was. I didn't feel it was enough time, me personally speaking. So I pushed back on that in that I did not participate in the public service. I remained unvaccinated in the armed forces. When it came time, I did not declare my vaccination status. In both cases, I was told with the public service, you're on leave without pay indefinitely. And then with the armed forces, it was going to be administrative action followed by a 5F release. So I'm sure you're familiar with the 5F release code. That is completed service unsuitable for further service. In both the cases, I was devastated by those decisions and found myself in a really bad place. So are you still with me?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, so just bear with us. We're going to have to negotiate this obstacle here shortly.
No worries. We'll edit it out in post.
Okay. We got to this point in January where I wasn't sure what to do. I wasn't sure, whether I should leave the country, go live in the woods, or potentially some other alternative. And I just got to the point where I was in a very dark place, and then we saw protests happen in Ottawa in January. Okay, crossover. So that inspired me in a way. I saw finally, I felt like I wasn't alone in all of this. There was a bunch of other people, like a lot of people out there, who seemed like it felt the same way I did. And I saw what was happening there. I was inspired by it, but I was also taken aback by the heavy-handed authoritarian approach that our government was taking towards these protesters. And I just felt it was time for a protest of my own. So in February the 12th, I went out in uniform. I made a statement about how I felt about the issue. And this had nothing to do with political motivation. This had to do with, I felt that this was extremely wrong. And I wanted folks to know that there was somebody, at least in the federal government, who thought that way. So I made this statement. I made my intentions clear that I was going to attend a protest march starting February the 20th. And I started on February the 20th, a Sunday, left Vancouver, and got to Ottawa on June the 30th, 4,300 kilometers, and a meeting with a bunch of members of parliament in between. Decided that it was still necessary to continue with this because of the fact not all federal government workers got brought back to work. Okay, so basically, between July the 1st and July the 17th, we sat down and we thought about things and the progress that we've made. There was a number of federal government workers who got invited back to work on the 20th of June. However, the issue was with Forces members. They were still being released. Right. The ones who had asked for exemptions, a lot of them were being denied. The stories I was hearing about discrimination, about those who did not want to participate, was appalling, to say the least. Mm-hmm. We still got guys getting 5F'd. We're losing pilots, operators, and technicians. The fact that guys are not allowing guys to remain in service to complete their pensionable time is another issue. And the fact that there's an overall lack of awareness within the Canadian public on this. They don't know. They're the ones that are paying for the armed forces. They're the ones that paid for me to have a successful career. And I believe that they should have more awareness on this fact. And the organization, I think, is suffering. Certainly the individuals, and we're talking hundreds. This isn't just me. This is hundreds of armed forces personnel have been negatively impacted, so have their families. And we decided that this march needed to continue. July the 18th, we arrived at St. John's, Newfoundland, and we marched back to Port aux Basques, all the way across Newfoundland. Took a ferry back to Nova Scotia, crossed over Cape Breton, ferry back over to, we got a ride over to Prince Edward Island from some friendly lobster fishermen, and then we resumed a march across a little bit of Prince Edward Island, not the whole way. Then we went over back to Nova Scotia, and now we just crossed into New Brunswick the day before yesterday. So it has been a really good, thank you, member of the team that helped me out. So has been a really good experience, okay, despite the physical, psychological, and emotional strain of it all. The people that have responded in a positive way, it's been overwhelming. This has been funded with a bit of startup cash by myself and members of the team, and then it's been the Canadian public who has continued this. So we've been doing this for 176 days now, almost 6 months, and that's not counting the time that we took a brief hiatus between July the 1st and the 17th. And, so we've been doing this, marching for 40 kilometers a day, 10 hours typically. Every other day, we'll stop and try to have a meet and greet with folks in the area, and we keep our progress updated on the website and with social media. And I also have a GPS live link on my rucksack. So this is the way it's been going down. We like to think we've made a little bit of progress, of course. We're having significant issues with the media and other organizations, but that's the long and short of it.
Well, James, I mean, there's a lot to touch on there. And just to touch on the fact about the members of the forces, I know personally those that are affected by this. And it is the single worst thing you could do, not only to the member and their families, you're taking away somebody's ability to put food on the table, but the devastating effect it has on the morale of the entire service is not well understood by the Canadian public. This has destroyed many in the reserves, many in the Reg Force. The fact that they're not even counting those that just voluntarily left because of the mandates. I myself left the federal public service because of the mandates. I said, I'm not following this. This is ridiculous. I'm at home all day. Why am I being imposed this treatment, which I had already taken? And I said, I'm not going to be beholden to somebody to write an affidavit to promise that I've done this. This isn't how I grew up. This is insane. And then to top it all off, the fact that you've decided to walk across Canada. As far as I know, the only other individual of high profile is Terry Fox to do this type of endeavor to raise awareness, and it's been radio silence. The only thing I've been able to find on major news outlets is the fact that you were tied to some right-wing, I don't know what that was, but typical talking point that, oh, this is a right-wing event. And I'm troubled by that because I hold very similar views to you. I'm in no way politicized. In full honesty, I've voted for the Liberals many times, but this is fundamentally wrong. And the fact that you're standing up for this makes me proud to be a Canadian. And I wish more Canadians, and I think they do. And I think that's the main issue. So many Canadians, we understand that what is going on is wrong, but we don't say anything because as Canadians, we don't rock the boat. And I think it's going to take a lot more guys like you to keep on pushing forward to get the word out. And that's why I wanted to have you on the podcast, because you're doing something incredible. Why isn't this front and center? I only found out once you started moving into Ottawa that you were walking across Canada. That's crazy. So how's the walk been so far? Like you mentioned, like the support's been good. Like just tactically on the ground, like has the support really been there? Like are people coming out and supporting you along the way and like giving you some really good feedback and encouragement?
Absolutely. That's what's been the sustaining factor in this, is that even on the busy highway, folks got time, more so actually, because there's more space for them to pull over. They'll pull over, say hi, say thank you. If we're traveling through a more built-up area, we actually get people coming out and meeting us on the ground, like on the street. It's been the word of mouth and the social media presence that's got us this far. But like you said, radio silence there's still a lot of folks who don't actually know what I'm doing and why.
Right.
So, the support from the people has been great. The veterans' support has been unbelievable, especially when it comes to, now I'm not talking about the Legion, I'm talking about Vets for Freedom and other veterans organizations. They're putting us in touch with other veterans who kind of put us up for the night. We just stayed at a veterans place last night. And so that kind of support has been amazing, absolutely. We wouldn't have got this far without it. But not just that, it has been the Canadian public who, like you said, they know something's wrong. I think it's not so much that they don't know what to do or say. They're kept in the dark about it, a lot of them. I don't think they actually understand what is wrong and why. It's so insidious and subtle and hard to define. They don't recognize it for something as wrong. And furthermore, we have that misinformation sector that is doing their best to vilify everything, and that is remarkably effective. So I just want to put something at you here. There actually been about 15 people who have crossed Canada, and we crossed paths going in different directions, and his name is Dave Proctor, and he actually set a world record for running across the country in the shortest amount of time, I think. Anyway, at least a Canadian record, 66 days. So
he's literally
he was just doing it for free
this summer. Oh wow!
Yeah,
that's incredible.
Yeah, Dave Proctor. Good. So he got, good for him. Good job, Dave. he did it. He was going one direction, we were going the other, and we crossed paths in We didn't actually get a chance to talk because there was construction on the highway. But he actually he's another remarkable individual, but in doing this has been more slow motion and doing it in the Army way with the supplies you need to survive on your back. This has been our kind of signature, if you will. And so I don't want it to be, I just want it to be known that other people have crossed the country on foot.
Right on. And I might have to reach out and get him on the podcast. That's a massive feat. I do know, and this is a shout out to Sachin Laddie, who's a veteran and a CBSA officer who's getting ready to run across Canada as well. So there are definitely those that have decided to do something, and it's good to have you on and get your perspective. I mean, to touch on your point about Canadians not really knowing what is going on, recently the travel ban was contested at the Supreme Court level, and I don't know if you're aware of that proceeding. The documents are on the website. They're there, and there was a great article by Rupa Subramanya.
I remember that now, yeah.
Yeah, and that only came out about a week ago, and nobody touched it. Not a single news media outlet touched it. It only came out on Substack. The only people that are looking at it, the Americans and the British. And the unfortunate reality, and it was Jordan Peterson that summarized it, is that in order to grapple with the level of insidiousness that has happened on this travel, just on the travel mandate in and of itself, we have to accept the fact that our government isn't doing things in good faith. And when we accept that, that fundamentally cuts out the knees from our underpinning as what it is to be Canadian, because as Canadians, we've always just assumed, and for good reason, our government does things in good faith, and it's human error and maybe incompetence that make things a little bit harder, but we always pull it out at the end and sort things out. This is not the case here, and this is for everybody to observe. And in this case, lends credence to what you're talking about, that these policies, these mandates, this nature of 5 effing soldiers that have put their lives on the line for the country in war, to say we don't want you anymore, you no longer represent anything with respect to Canadian values, is so insidious and so hard to swallow that it's hard for Canadians, I think, to come to grips with the fact that this is what happened. And I'm curious to know, just on your part, and I know you're busy, so I don't want to keep you for too long because you got 5 more clicks to your next waypoint. But where do you see this going at the end of the day? You've obviously made some headwinds. You've obviously made some progress here. You're obviously getting people's attention. Where do you see this going in the future? Because I know and I don't think you can talk to it because you've got a court martial coming up. But like that, these are serious things that are coming down the pipe. Where do you see this going in the future, and what are your hopes for what you're doing right now?
Yeah, I just I gotta keep moving or my legs will cramp up. But allow me to answer that question. I have to say at this point, I'm a little bit concerned about where things are going in several dimensions because of the lack of awareness of the Canadian people about certain policies and stuff. I'll take that, thank you. Can you grab that? We're going. Thanks, man. I think within the forces itself, from what I've seen, from what I've heard, we're experiencing the flight of some of the best trained personnel, qualified personnel that is ultimately going to cost more to the forces in the long term to retrain people. There's new policies being implemented, I think, that are, there's no other way to describe it except they're it's not conducive to discipline, from what I understand of it, which is a problem if you don't have that in the armed forces.
Right.
I'm concerned by a number of things, such as, like you said, this throwaway factor. As you may recall, and I'm sure you do, about 10 and 12 years ago, we were still in combat, in a combat role in Afghanistan, and there was nothing but rah, rah, rah.
Mm-hmm.
And now, if you have the temerity to stand up for yourself, you're this expendable resource. That is concerning. The fact that I am speaking out on this issue, and not just, radio silence from the media. I am experiencing almost next to no support from our political class. I've reached out to the Department of National Defense Ombudsman to be rebuffed, saying that because it's a government-wide policy, not necessarily a Canadian Armed Forces policy, he's not going to have anything to do with it. The Canadian Armed Forces Ombudsman, the Department of National Defense Ombudsman, the one that you're supposed to be able to reach out to if you feel that you're being treated unjustly, is not touching this. That I find highly concerning. With regards to these, yeah,
right, which is on your it's on your website for those that are curious.
Sorry, go ahead.
I was just saying that document is on your website for those that are curious and want to read it. You've posted it for everybody to see, which is very revelatory.
Yeah, and that's the one he actually sent me too, addressed to me. So this is where we are at with this, is that we have like this political class, and at the highest levels. Hey, just keep the noise down, please. At the highest levels, we have officials who are unwilling to stand up for the rights of their soldiers and employees. I find that highly concerning. I'm not sure what's to come of it. I'm not sure if we're going to get to a point where, at least in some way, you're going to have a chain of command in whatever department it's in, kind of exhibit some courage. I haven't seen it, and I find that concerning. So to answer your question, where's all this going? In the short term, I see it going nowhere good. My 5F release, I think, is probably on hold because of this court-martial business. Now, I want to make it clear to you and all your viewers, we asked for a court-martial. Yeah. I was given the choice between summary trial and court-martial early on. My lawyer and I elected a court-martial so that we could have a place to talk about why this is all happening. Right. As opposed to a summary trial, you're probably familiar with the difference. One is conducted at a much lower level of command and typically over within an afternoon, whereas a court-martial is going to be a much longer and drawn-out affair. That's what we wanted. So we asked for the court-martial, and I have heard nothing about it yet. I haven't got a date, and I haven't got no sentence has been passed, and nothing has moved on that. And it would not surprise me if it's something that gets kicked down the road for somebody else to deal with a couple of years from now. That doesn't concern me.
It sounds like they're scared, James. It sounds like they're scared. They don't want that to get out in the open because it's a public trial with public information that has to be presented for everybody to see. And you pick the exact thing that they didn't want you to pick, which is court-martial. Much like, I love the scene in Band of Brothers where Captain Winters decides, yeah, you want to charge me for this gobbledygook? fine, court-martial me. And they go, oh, wait, hold on a sec. No, we didn't want you to pick court-martial. We just wanted you to pick summary trial. So if we do it behind closed doors, and then we just get on with it. So good on you for reading the system, knowing how to use the system to your advantage, and essentially all Canadians' advantage. James, I guess I just want to wrap up here with you and let you keep on marching down the highway there. What is the best way? Yeah, what's the best way for somebody to not only follow you, but also support you in your mission in bringing awareness to this important cause?
Yeah, those are a couple of different ways that we've been looking at. Like I said, we have reached out to ombudsmen. We have reached out once again to every single member of parliament. This is not a partisan thing. We're not endorsing a party. We're not specifically reaching out to one person or party. We're reaching out to every federal member of parliament to weigh in on this issue. And if people want to keep this issue alive at the forefront of people's minds, then they should be reaching out to their federal government officials and members of parliament, telling them exactly what's going on in their communities, what harms have been done, and they need to stand up and they need to start telling our government who they are. They have power as taxpayers, as citizens, as voters, as consumers, and they need to understand that. They need to start coming together at the community level and working with others to make their voices heard. And if they want to support me in this, they can mention me and tell them why it's important. And by them, I mean tell their members of parliament. Tell the ombudsman. Look, this is what this person is doing. Here's why. Reach out to him. We're reaching out to them. Again, we're not as successful as we were. And we're kind of like at the point where we're going to need, again, the Canadian public to help us with this so that we can have that meeting so that the Canadian public can see our system still working. Mm-hmm. There's lots of examples of letters that you can write or copy and paste, but you have to put your own name on it. It's at the CanadaMarches.ca website. You can buy a t-shirt, you can donate. But I'll just put something else out there for you. Because of this slamming that we're getting and this insinuation, rumor mongering, and guilt by association, we're going to pursue a legal challenge to the Global TV for a recent article that they put out referencing this right-wing business. It's a reprehensible article, and what it does is it serves as a kind of again, guilt by association by lobbing my name in there with all of these other organizations so that when people think of me, they think of right-wing as opposed to soldier marching across Canada. Mm-hmm. We're going to challenge that, and we're going to have a crowdfunding campaign to that end. And if folks want to be a part of that, if folks want to go and push back on this corporate media, which I think is by now obvious they are subservient to their masters at the federal government level and the corporate level, as opposed to reporting the truth of things, they're going to have a chance now. They're going to have a chance to kind of contribute in that way. Because these are the kinds of things that need to happen. What we're experiencing on the ground, for the most part, 99% positive interactions with people. Where we're having trouble is folks who get caught up in this misinformation and are afraid to have to conduct business with us when we try to book a venue to host a meet and greet. And then we have people calling those businesses up and telling them not to do business with us, which is absolutely something I never expected to see happen in this country. So, again, it's gonna take us to get folks to stand up for themselves. They need to see examples from other people, and that's the way they can support me. That's the way they can support themselves. Anybody who's following me knows that I have never said a disparaging word to anybody, except for a corporation like the media, and they should be able to competently say, to a business owner, you're actually should be supporting this person in letting him have your function there or whatever. So this is the kind of way for us. If folks want to take part in what we're doing, that's the way. And you can follow us at canadamarches.ca, and we have all the links to our various social media platforms there. And of course, if you go there and look for the GPS live link, I think it's in upper left or upper right corner of the website. I got my spot tracker on my rucksack, and you can see where I am real time.
That's amazing. It's amazing.
So it's global news.
James,
global news is. I just got. I got to make a correction. Global news is the one we're going to have litigation against.
Right on. And that was at the start of our conversation. That was the article I was referring to with right-wing insinuations. And that's nothing new. And especially within any veteran that decides to make a stance or make any kind of comment, it's a clear targeting against our own community. And I've seen it be very effective in the fact that taking a certain stance now, even amongst veterans, is pulling us and dividing us. Amongst the country, it's pulling us apart and dividing us. That doesn't go well long term, not only just short term, but with respect to if we're looking from an historical context, that's unsatisfactory. We had a moment in time where Canada was at war. And we have a young group of hardened veterans that we all decided we're going to step up because we're a volunteer army and we're going to do our part and do our part for the country, for the values of our country. And there's one quote that I'm going to paraphrase from a friend of mine who said, "Dave, I didn't go overseas to fight for our values, to come home and have them all stripped away." It was heartbreaking to hear. Like he had tears in his eyes when he was saying it, because I felt the same way too. I was willing to put my life on the line for Canadian values, and then over the last 2 years, it felt like they were just stripped away at a whim, and nobody decided to stand up and question them. So, James, you're definitely embodying the values of being hard to kill, that's for sure. You're continuing, even though you're still serving, you're continuing your service to Canada at a much higher level by just pointing a light on things that need to be changed, because they do not represent us as a country. And I think more Canadians need to hear what is going on and look at it from a nonpartisan point of view, because if it's happening to us now, something will come down the line later, and it'll be on you now to say, "Oh no, I'm not part of this organization. Why are you taking away my rights? Why are you doing this? Why are you suspending my ability to travel?" That's all it takes. It's in everybody's best interest to ensure that our laws and our rights are upheld, no matter what. So I'm glad that you're out there marching literally for a better Canada and to change the current policies that are out there. And I'm glad that it's a veteran leading the charge. So, James, thanks so much for taking time out of your day. I know you're a busy man. And I wish you all the best in the future. And you can definitely count me in for supporting you in your future endeavors, my man.
Great. Thanks very much. And if we have a chance, let's chat again in a few weeks.
Absolutely, James. You got an open invite whenever you need.
Roger that.
All right, buddy. Have a good one. Thanks so much.
Take care.
Cheers.